How about that? I forgot my computer updated last night, and it always disables all the audio. Hello, hello. You still can't hear me? You still can't hear me? Really? Are you sure? You can't hear me? I'm waiting. Yeah, oh, okay, good. I was gonna say, yeah, every time my computer updates, it disables all the like permissions for the audio for sure. Sometimes the cameras, usually just the audio. And I forgot it I told it not to update, but it still did it last night. Okay, cool. Welcome, welcome. I know, I dropped one of my little collars in the mud. It started raining. And I forgot I'd done that until 10 minutes ago, so I'm just re-sewing it really quick. I don't really have my camera set up for it to show you, but hello, everybody. Oh my goodness, that is a long line of people to say hi to. So let me just finish this, and I have to fix one of my collars, but maybe we can sew that together so we can talk a little bit about collars before I do that. But this is one of my first ones I'm going to show you. It's going to be the messiest collar and collar stand I've sewn. And sorry, the camera's gonna vibrate since I have the camera mounted to the machine. So let me see if I can get this. I'm almost done. How are you guys? Are you guys actually interested in collars, or is it just me? Michael was asking me at dinner, like, what are you streaming tomorrow? And I said, well, probably only something that I'm interested in. But it kind of dovetails nicely with my next Fitopedia that is kind of going to come out eventually once I figure out my editing. So, here wait, I'm almost done. Because a lot of times when you make, my next Fitopedia is all about fitting the neck and shoulders. Okay, there we go. I finished my little collar stand. You're actually interested. Okay, good. Nice. Yeah, okay, cool, Sarah. Please trigger. You won't trigger me. You know what triggers me is when other people do that are selling patterns, because really it's like you can call a pattern whatever you want. I really don't care. My problem is when pattern companies call a pattern by the wrong name, because if someone has trouble sewing it or something and they start searching for tutorials on how to sew that collar, they're not going to find the right instructions. And I feel like it's just this one thing that's like indicative of a lot of things in our world where certain things are being watered down, and this like legacy knowledge is being watered down, and it's just like, we don't like calling it that. We're going to call it this. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But a lot of the world calls it these things, and you will have trouble, you know, it's just like incorrect information. So, but whatever, you can call whatever you want. I don't care. All right, anything technical. Cool, Sue. All right. Cool, Jan, yeah. Yeah, I'm really sorry my Fitopedia has been delayed. Like, I think I told you guys, I had a ton of stuff happen at the end of the year with my dog. It really, and the holidays, you know, then Sew Expo happened. So like just those two things combined was about 5 months. And I think I launched Fitopedia 6 months ago. Right now my issue is that my computer has stopped opening my editing software, and my computer was built for that. And so I'm sorting that out right now. So I'm working on other things. So I'm getting everything back on track. And that Fitopedia only needs the videos, which sounds like a lot, but that's the easy part, because it's like everything's done. So anyway, hi Lynn, how's it going? Hey Barbara. All right, watered down, yeah, right? I was trying to come up with a good word last night to my husband, and I was like, it's almost like all the sharp, finer points are being sanded off in a bad way, right? Like it's just, it's almost like we're trying to simplify things into like 2 streams of knowledge, you know, like there's only 2 types of collars. Well, there's not. And that's kind of dangerous, because then if you want options eventually, or you're wanting information, or you're sewing something else, you may want the actual information for it. So it's just good to kind of keep some things consistent. And I may call things something different than somewhere else they do in the world, but I'm pretty traditional in how I call things on my channel. There are things like I call, like this collar here. This is a basic collar. I often call it a camp collar because most people call it a camp collar, but it is just a basic collar, and I'm gonna go over that. So, all right, so let me, yeah, right. I mean, I guess Hillary in a way, but it's more like historical appropriation, you know? Oh, this kind of came out cute. All right, so first off, I thought I would share with you just like a little graphic that I made. Let me know if you can't hear or see something, because I minimized my streaming stuff so I can't see the information very well. So this is just one of the graphics I made for Fitopedia. And you hear a lot of talk about convertible collars, and I'm going to tell you what that is. And there's really only one kind of collar that is convertible, and a lot of collars are called that, and they're not. And then I also think that this little chart could be organized a tiny bit differently. So all those upright collar examples here in the middle, I would actually put these under these convertible collars. So you have the basic collar, which is the one on my dress form, the shirt collar, which we all are very familiar with, the button up, right? And then you have these upright collars, which basically this little collar stand is descended from the collar stand here, right? Or this one is descended from here, right? So these kind of tie in together. And this is on top of that, to oversimplify, not pattern drafting wise, but oversimplify. And then these right here, like this kind right here, this turtleneck, funnel, mock turtle, whatever you want to call it, is sort of a version of this with different fabric choices and different type of ease. Maybe you cut it on the bias because it's usually in a stretch. The cowl neck I'm putting in here because there are cowl necks, and I knew someone would call me out if I didn't mention it as an upright collar, but it's honestly most of the time built onto a bodice, and it's integrated with the bodice. And I'm not including integrated collars in this graphic. So right now we have, and then over here we have these flat collar examples. There is no roll, no stand. I'm gonna go over all this so don't worry, you don't have to remember all of this yet. You don't have to remember anything. There's no test. Actually, maybe we'll have a quiz. All right, so flat collars. Peter Pan would be the most distinctive flat collar, right? Because I think we've all heard of that. It's got a cute name too. Sailor as well, right? These are two of the like most prominent styles. And then you have down here these lapel styles, and there's basically two kinds. There's a shawl style and like a suit jacket, like with a lapel, these two are similar in how you wear them, and that they're not convertible either, but they are built very, very differently from one another. And you can make a fake notched collar like this on the shawl collar, and I did an example like that. So, all right, so let me show you my other graphic. Don't worry, this is from Fitopedia too. But I just wanted to do this. I'm going to show you in person too. So this is color coordinated. So you see here's the center back, center back. This outer edge, so this collar is being shown upside down. There's the outer edge, center front, center front. This roll line, fold line, whatever you want to call it, that's right here. And then you have the neck right here. And I think like this helps tie it. If I had pictured this collar upside down, it would probably make more sense and correlate to this photo up here. But most of your pattern pieces come to you looking like this. And you shouldn't cut it that way. You should cut it the other, like flipped over, so that this is down, especially if you have a directional print. All right, so let's go back to the some colors. All right, could you possibly move the graphic over to the right? Yes. I'm covering it up. Oh, okay, yeah. Let me, sorry, you're right. I see it now. I see I'm covering it up. Is that better? Oh, I meant to minimize this. Here we go. So this is this graphic with the color, like corresponding locations of the collar. So you can check that out. And then here is my, kind of my, I'm not going to call it a family tree of collars. I'm just calling it the most common collars that you're going to run across in their most basic iteration. All right, so now let's go back to collars. All right, so how do I make this bigger? I have a gigantic mouse and it takes a lot of getting used to. All right, so this right here is a basic collar. Wait, I have some notes here too. So this is a convertible collar. Now, a convertible collar means it can do one thing that relates to the term convertible. It means you can wear it open or closed. And you know, maybe I'm going to put my iPad up so I can read chat on it. That is what I'm going to do. I just thought of doing that. I love this idea. Love this idea. Except there's going to be a delay. Let me put my chat on. Gosh, this lady runs ads. What the heck? What the heck? Okay. Can I do this? Seems sketchy. All right, all right. Oops, sorry. Sorry, Trixita. Okay. Hey, Monica. All right, so convertible means that you can wear this open or closed. And what I mean is, you see how I can button this all the way up to the neck? Whereas like a suit jacket, a notched collar, you really can't. You can't go past that top button. You couldn't get it to close right here at the neck. And then when I take this out, it pops open and you can wear it. And then this right here forms a little lapel, right? That's it. That is what convertible means. It means nothing else. Sometimes I used to erroneously say it's because you could wear it up or down, but that's not true. It's that you can wear it open or closed. That would be the more correct way to say that. And the other kind of collar that you can do this with is a button-up, right? So a button-up. Oh, and I didn't sew all my darts on these little bodices, so I'm sorry they look kind of funny. And this bodice has a rounded back on it. So you'll see a gape in the armhole. I'm fully aware it's there, but I didn't want to dart in my shoulder on this little bodice. Oh, I didn't do the side seam. So let's pull this down. I put my little form on a Lazy Susan. It's kind of hilarious, like the one from your kitchen. All right, so this one too, right? We can wear this closed all the way up, right? All the way buttoned up. And we can open it and have a little lapel, right? It's proper to wear it either way, right? Okay, you're talking about something else. All right. And the collar stand here can be worn without the collar here or with. You can just leave it off right here and you can wear it without, and you would have a completely different look. So this one too is a convertible collar. You can wear it closed or open and it's fine, right? And let me see if I have any other little notes. So the other thing about the basic collar that we just had on the form that I often call a camp collar is it has a roll line. And this one right here, the roll line would be the seam right here where it attaches to the collar stand. Sometimes you'll see this pattern where there's no seam right here. It's all built on one. And that is kind of a budget way to sew it. You can do that. It means that you lose a little bit of shaping in that seam right here so that when it folds over, it may not fold over as nicely. So it'll kind of flare out back here and you'll get what I call floating. I say that a lot. But it doesn't, you know, most of the time we're wearing our shirts like this, so it's not that bad. And it is kind of easier to sew. It has its own demons, you know. So there's that. Oh, okay. So the other thing that is a good thing to note is that the style line, so if you wanted to make this design your own, you could alter things like you could make the stand straight up and down rather than that beautiful rounded shape. This rounded shape here, you can make it straight. And then obviously the big one is your collar point. You can change where this collar point is. So when it's closed, you could bring this point closer together, farther apart, just by changing this little line right here. You could bring it up, you could bring it further in, you could bring it down. You could do some crazy design, a little scalloped edge if you're feeling adventurous and you want to try and sew that. And that is basically where you can kind of make this design your own and set it apart. And I started a Pinterest page kind of late last night, so we could look at a few color ideas. The floating concept. Okay, actually I'm pretty convinced I'm going to get the floating on this Peter Pan. So I'm going to show you what I mean. I can already see it floating away. All right. I shouldn't have interfaced my pieces. I was really trying to sew these in kind of a proper way, even though I didn't really do my darts, I didn't do plackets, I didn't do anything like that. But on these little tiny samples, it's really hard to sew. So this is floating pretty badly, but I think once I get it all arranged on here, it'll be better. This is such an awkward angle too. Convertible, because both ways. It's convertible because it can be worn open or closed. That's all that is. I know people say other things. Okay, so you see how this is floating up, lean, like that? So that would mean that what I would need to do to fix that, let's pull this down, is that I could pinch out the collar perimeter. I'm going to show you guys this later too. And that's how I would get rid of that floating. See how it just kind of pinches it out? All right, so now this is a Peter Pan collar. Does anyone in the world call this something different than Peter Pan? Do you have another name for this? I think that would be really, yeah, it does give it the evil queen. There we go. You can pop it, wear it just like that, like a saucer. It's looking a little more like Victorian. Victorian, I might be wrong about that. All right, so Peter Pans, I think, get a little maligned in clothing. We're keeping our throat hydrated today. Okay, so I'm just looking at chat, making sure I'm not missing anything. And I'm going to try and relax my voice a little bit. A collar with a stand can float. It would be that, just this collar edge here. If it's lifting off of the garment, it's not sitting down, that would be the floating I'm talking about. So if, where is that little collar with the stand? So you see how, like, if I don't put this all the way on, you see how it's floating up there? Like, that's okay. We haven't put it all the way onto the form yet. And and remember, these are all first patterns that I drafted. I drafted all of these yesterday, cut them all out, and sewed them all yesterday. So it's not like I tested them out for little tricksy here. I would have probably backed the neckline off of the neck a little further. But yeah, so let's say we had this on here. This one's not floating at all, and it actually probably has the opposite issue. I would probably cut up and splay it out a little, and I'll show you that in a little bit, to get it to sort of relax and sit nicer. But this is quilting cotton. It's not going to sit nice right now. So, all right, so let me not make a mess of my stuff here. All right, so the little Peter Pan. I think that if you were to say, oh, I love this new dress pattern, it has a Peter Pan collar. If you said that in a crowd of people, you are going to get two reactions. cool or Peter Pan. And I think that it has this connotation of being childish or little girl-ish. And it really can be kind of or maybe even old-fashioned. Oh man, I love these little pins, but they're so thick sometimes. And that's why I kind of like them. But these right here bend. I like ruin a pin every time I use them. All right, so let's just get that little guy on there. All right, so with Peter Pans, they do have a roll, Hillary, but and this is what I was going to mention, the roll is added to the collar by overlapping the shoulder points. And I'll show you on the paper in a minute. I'm not switching between because I'd need a third camera here. And I can't untether it, so sorry guys. This is the quick and dirty collar talk. Quick and dirty kind of skill building session. So when you draft these based on the contour of the neck of the bodice. And unlike a basic or collar stand that we were just looking at, those are drafted using the neck measurement, but you don't lay the pattern pieces down and then trace the contour of the neck, where you do with a Peter Pan, because you want it as flat as possible. So think about it like drafting a facing. So this is kind of akin to that, but when you lay your pattern pieces together, your bodice on the table to trace, you overlap your shoulder points. You overlap the pieces. The more you overlap, the higher of a roll you're going to get back here. And then you would, my collar would be deeper, obviously. You would have a little bit of a roll back here. This one here, I gave it no roll, so it's only overlapped a ½ inch. And that's partly why it's floating up a little bit. That and because the neckline is just too tight with all the stitching, the quilting cotton and the interfacing. So, okay, and so the style line on a Peter Pan is this little edge here. So when I show you the Pinterest page on Peter Pan collars, you're probably going to be the most surprised at which ones are Peter Pan and which ones, because of how different they can look from one another. You can make this more of a point, and I have an example of that. And you can also make these end back here, so you have two separate collars like this one here. It is very easy to draft a Peter Pan, but sometimes that floating can be a problem. You would want to try it out because of the fabrics that you're using. I would definitely try it out. So this one here, you can see I separated the collar back here. So often you would see this maybe with a little back neck opening, and maybe the front has no opening, right? You could put your front on the fold. And you can see this one's more of a squared off look. Let me pin it so I can kind of yoink on it a little bit. Oh. It's just like, ooh. Going to tire out the foam there at the neck. Tug, 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 tug. See, the neck is so tight, it's pulling up my shoulder. That's the quilting cotton and the interfacing, because it's clipped. All right, so there we go. So this is a good example. You would not wear this collar open. If you can wear it open, right? Say you left it unbuttoned. Oh, look at that. I just pulled the little thing right off the pin. So if you left your shirt unbuttoned, it doesn't pop open and create a lapel. You don't wear a Peter Pan like this, right? Because look what happens to the collar. See that? This is a perfect example of why this one's not considered convertible. It'd be like wearing your shirt inside out with the facing on top, right? Yeah, right, Sarah? Exactly. But there's a lot of really great stylistic things you can do with a Peter Pan that are easier to pull off without anyone knowing it's a Peter Pan. That's why I can't wait to show you the Pinterest page, because you have everything from something like a Puritan style lace collar to something super, you know, cottagecore with a ruffle or something. So, all right, so these are flat style collars, not convertible. There is a little bit of a roll, but it's really that you're sort of giving the collar some height in the back. It's not a classic roll where like the, you know, this basic collar, you know, we're rolling it straight down the middle of the collar, right? That's the roll line, and there's your stand back there. So when you talk about these, you see this visible green part here is called the stand. Even on this basic little collar, it has a stand there. You just don't technically draft it in there. It's just inherent to the roll of the collar. It kind of creates its own little stand back there. All right, so the ultimate of flat collars, the sailor. Talk about a specific look. But these became really, really popular, you know, like probably in the I want to say 30s, you know, post-war stuff. There was a lot of homage to military stuff. Who knows why? Maybe Christina can tell us why the Navy have this style of collar. I don't really know. Again, so what Hillary asked earlier, can there be a roll? This is the same concept. You can have a little bit of a roll back here, but it's not technically a collar stand. It's just more to give it more depth in the back. And so this, with sailors, it's so chunky right here. I'm just going to pin it down. With sailor collars, there's always this little like flip back here. It's flat. There's sometimes an inset right here. So say this was a garment that was a pullover without a front opening. There would be this little triangular inset there, which is another look. There's often also a tie. So like literally they take a scarf under there and tie it right here. And there's a little bow. So that's another look. Yes, Barbara, Peter Pan can go on a scoop neck. You can do a Peter Pan on a non-scoop neck, but you're going to start getting into, how do I encapsulate that kind of thing? You're usually getting into something, it's just more of like a design choice, but yeah, you can totally do this. Most of the time you're seeing them on scoop necks, but you can see them on V-necks or portrait necks, where say the collar comes down on the sides and then there's like a straight neck at the top and there's no collar there. I can draw a picture for you guys if you remind me later. So yeah. All right, so these are all our flat collars. Put my little pattern pieces over here. All right, so now, oh, I still need to sew one of these. We're going quickly. Let's do the upright collars. Where are they at? Here we go. Upright collars. Facing would be a style choice for sure. All right, so this is a very, very simple collar, right? A lot of people call them stands or band style collars. The technical would be upright. An upright collar, no roll. Sometimes I feel like I'm going through the tape on the dress form. And I don't want to do that. It's so hard. Okay. See the rounded back there? No darts, I just pinched it shut. I was like, oh wow, I have to make 9 bodices, and then I think I had to make 12 bodices. So, all right, so this one right here, it would meet right there. I'm just not being very precise when I pin it here. It would meet there. Sometimes you'll see it curved, right? The former way to call these would have been the Mandarin style collar, and thankfully that's kind of out now because that's culturally appropriative. It is a band or stand style collar, and it is the basis of that shirt collar stand as well. Same draft exactly. So you can do the same thing, and the style line here would be rounded or squared off. Sometimes you'll even like make this really increased, like you'll come from the shoulder, increase it up, and then it'll have like a little collar point like this. Have you ever seen those? Kind of old-fashioned, I think, or maybe in a kind of more very stylistic thing. Officer's collars, what you call that? Okay, I like that. What would you call the collar on the Cornell shirt? I don't know what the Cornell shirt looks like. Which one is it? It's a band, but it doesn't stand. Oh, is that the shirt you just made? See, I don't think of those as collars. I think of those as more of like neck finishes. So it's almost like a built-on facing, like an exposed facing. Now I know what Shem goes through. Yeah, well. Okay, so this little guy is also a pattern that when you build this, you are building it based on measurements. All you need is your front neck measurement, your back neck measurement, and you can draft it. You don't have to have the bodice anywhere nearby. Whereas like the Peter Pan or the sailor collar, you have to have the bodice to be able to draft the pattern just like you would a facing, right? So let's see, do I have any other things to say about this little guy? I wrote kind of some notes that popped into my head as I was drafting all of these. Oh, one of the things I haven't been mentioning is the other elements that would be needed to finish the inside of the garment, because sometimes this is really important to think about because you don't, your garment may be incompatible with it. So this one here self-finishes, right? So the collar finishes the inside. It can finish the inside. This one has a facing, right? And I did that because of the extension here. So this one would have a placket as well. You can make these so that they overlap, and then the collar would go to the end here, and then that one would be self-facing, meaning you use the collar to finish the inside and the outside. There's no facing needed or anything like that. Same with the shirt collar with the collar and collar stand. The Peter Pan and the sailor, they need a facing or something, but you can draft those so that the back between the shoulders will clean finish the back neck. It just wouldn't be a very nice way to do that kind of collar. You could though. The basic shirt collar usually has a front facing, but then the back doesn't have a facing, and you clean finish it using the collar. So there's a lot of little subtleties when you start getting into what color is right for me, so it's good to think about those things, because sometimes you're like, well, shoot, especially when you're trying to integrate with the center front. Like obviously this one here, if my collar went all the way to the end here, I could use the collar to clean finish it. I could have just sewn this as a placket, top stitched it down, right? No facing going to the shoulder, no facing in the back, use the collar to finish it. I can't do that when I have an extension past the collar. If you do, it's just really tricky to do that, and you probably will have some asymmetry, so not ideal. So then sewing the collar on, make it what? I'm sorry, Hillary. I probably missed when your comment popped up. What were you referencing? All right, let me see the other thing here. I'm just looking through my notes, making sure I'm not missing anything. Nehru, called Nehru. Oh, right. I haven't heard that term in a while, but yeah, that's true. I have heard that. One thing I'm not mentioning to you is, but I'll talk about it when I show you my pattern pieces, is the other component of this is like this collar here. You can use the exact same pattern piece on the inner collar and the outer collar, but you can't on the basic collar, because it rolls over and you have that under collar, there's just too much fabric there. And when a pattern is provided to you that doesn't have a specific under collar, your collar's not going to look that great. And I'll just be honest, it's a very lazy and sloppy way to draft a collar because it's so easy to just copy that collar piece and trim off what you need to make that under collar kind of cinch under and pull the top collar to wrap around and hide, you know, that edge. Same goes with like a Peter Pan. So this one here, here's the under collar and it's smaller and you can kind of see, you see how this little seam right here and that this right here is my top collar, this is my under collar. And so on this side, you don't see any of the under collar. That's the difference. And you can just do that yourself on any collar you have. So then when it's folded over, you don't have any danger of seeing that under collar creep onto the top. So it's just good technique. All right, so not my last. All right, so let me just show you the other, here they are, stand collars. So I have a funny little turtleneck because I didn't do any knits. Turtlenecks, I feel like turtlenecks for a while there, they were in wovens, right? I think about like the 50s, 60s, you would see them on wovens and things. I couldn't put this all the way around, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get it on. So this is a woven little turtleneck, but we typically do not wear turtlenecks in wovens, right? And so this one's folded over, and it's literally just a rectangle sewn on, and I cut it on the bias. Ugh. So there we go, right? I forgot to do my side seam over here, but I wasn't sure if I could get it on if I did the side seam. Do I have this backwards? No, I don't have it back. I may have it backwards. No, I don't have it backwards. I actually don't know. All right, so you can fold this over. This is cut on the bias right here. I use this fabric because it's a little lighter. So this sewing the collar on, just make it, because the collar is based on the neck, not the bodice, how to sew it on. Are you talking about the Peter Pan and the flat styles, Hillary? Yeah, Gail. I heartily recommend doing a facing rather than binding. Oh, on a collar. What kind of collar are you sewing? A woven turtle? Yeah, there were woven turtlenecks. It would be a bigger neck. See, I forgot to make my neckline bigger. I was literally factory sewing these. I stack cut under bodices. Hi, Walter. Yeah, if you look at, I'm pretty sure in the like drafting book that I had from school, I'm pretty sure the examples are woven. And they would have sometimes like a little back neck closure or something. So anyway, so this could be a mock turtleneck, which would be half height. It can be folded over. You could put a seam along this edge and do a little bit more of like, you know, some style lines with like depth, you know, make this front deeper when it folds over. You can build a cowl off of this kind of upright collar style. And this is, I'll just touch on this a little bit because when we get into the world of collars that are sort of built from the garment, I have a little Pinterest page to show you guys what I mean. You get into this much bigger world even of collars because they're integrated with the bodice, and it's a whole other ball game then. And it's a better way to draft a cowl is when it's integrated with the bodice. And the pattern piece looks kind of crazy too because your front doesn't have a neckline here. It kind of builds up and it's kind of this weird dome shape. It's really cool. And then that creates this like loose fabric kind of scarf built into your garment. So, all right. So my last little upright collar I did just so that no one said, you didn't cover hoods, is I did a little hood for you. Obviously, we don't put a lot of hoods on wovens, so I'm kind of cheating here. But this little hood, and the reason I wanted to include hoods, because in Fitopedia, I really want to give you guys some tools to alter a hood if it doesn't fit your neck, or it doesn't fit you from front to back, or it's too short or too tall. So, because it's a very, very easy thing to fix, because hoods are so easy to fix. And there are so many ways to draft a hood. It's kind of crazy. I only gave you one because I feel like it will be overwhelming and it kind of a sidebar, because it's not technically a collar, but it also is a, you know, an adornment to the top of your garment that's integrated with the neckline, just like collars are. So you were talking about the stand-up collars, Hillary. So because the collar is based on the neck, not the bodice, how to sew it on. So when you sew on the stand collar, well, this one isn't, the way I would normally do it is like I do a button-up shirt, right? So it's clean finished. Where's the, oh, okay, here we go. I'm like, wait, where's the, I'm looking at the iPad, but you guys are a little far behind. So this is the inside. See, there's the shoulder seam right there. So that would be like how you sew a collar, like a stand collar when it's above. It clean finishes. I always do this from the inside of the garment and I finish on the outside. So this one here, I used a facing on this one, and that's because this doesn't go all the way to the edge here. So I know that probably sounds really confusing because you're like, well, I could do it, but there's some subtleties. Anytime you're integrating with your closure, you have to think about, how am I going to finish this little edge right here? This right here, this little tiny section, that is your problem right there, is just how to finish from the center front to the extension edge. So that's when you get into troubles like that. Okay, sorry, the police are coming. All right, so I have a shawl collar here. So a shawl collar, the most typical one you think of is the one on a robe, right? That shawl collar, right? And this is what I was talking about, a fake notched collar. All I did to do that was just cut in and change it. So if you have a shawl collar on a garment and you kind of want to make it look different, you can do that really easily. So the funny thing about a shawl collar is that you, like the Peter Pan and the sailor, you have to have the neckline to build it. And on top of that, it's part of the garment. So when I lift this up, you'll see that that's all one piece. So see how there's a shoulder seam here, and then the neck seam here, and then there's a center back seam under the collar there, right? Just like that. So this is built onto the bodice. Now you can sew a shawl collar another way and make the pattern so it isn't like this. There's two ways to draft it. And then this would have the facing would be the, wait, let me think about this. Yeah. The facing, I just confused myself. The facing would match your outer fabric. So it's not like a facing that doesn't get seen to the world. It's a facing that is the collar. So that's how you would build it. You can see here how that does that. So the other kind of collar, I was looking in the Reader's Digest sewing book yesterday because I was kind of curious, do they have instructions to sew it in there, and what method did they pick? And they picked the other way, and it's that they have this, oh, I don't want to confuse you guys, but it is a separate thing, and there's a neck seam. So I really like this because you get a really nice finish on the garment here. If it's well drafted, it'll just look a little nicer. And what's really nice, nice when you build it onto the garment, say you were doing a fabric in a really lightweight fabric, like on a blouse, it will drape a lot nicer the fewer seams you have going on in there. All right, so my last one that I have, I need to finish sewing. It's my notched collar. I lost my little collar. My little collar piece was so small, I lost it between the cutting table and the over here, and it was getting late. It was like 7 o'clock by then. So I was like, okay, I just need to go home. I'm trying to figure out how to, I figured it out earlier. Okay, close your eyes. I don't want to make you guys sick. I'll just sew this really quick. Sorry, it'll vibrate a little bit. Yeah, exactly. What's nice about those two, Terry, when they are separate pieces, is they'll use a little less fabric, you know? So there is advantages to that, right? While I sew this, I'm just going to sew a notched collar really quick. Do you guys have any questions or anything? Hopefully I remember how to sew these. Do I do this first? I do this first, right? Oh, God. Sewing on a stream. What? Okay. Sorry I have to do this. Sorry it's going to vibrate a little bit too. I'm not going to do interfacing. I think that'll help. When I recut it, I was like, oh no, I need some interface pieces. I ended up just batch, what's it called when you interface a piece of fabric? Yeah, you can really fool people with a mock, the mock notched collar on the shawl, and it still looks nice, perfectly acceptable to do. It's not like it's budget either, because a shawl collar is definitely not a budget collar, because you had to do a lot more effort for the drafting. They're not hard to draft or anything, but you have to do a lot more effort for the drafting, and you have more pattern pieces. So, wait, am I doing this right? I think I'm not doing this right. I want to, well, let's just sew this on. Even if I don't do the facing, you're going to get the idea of what I'm talking about. Just so I don't, I didn't iron this either, so. We're going commando here with no pins. Man, sewing these little tiny things, it is a little trickier. I'm barely making it. Ooh. Come on. It'll be a little wonky. I looked everywhere for this little collar last night. I was like, what the heck? I remember I found it this morning after I cut this too. Okay, we almost made it. Oh, how rude. I ran out of bobbin thread. Welcome. I haven't been good about winding a bobbin either, so now. Oh, really, Aisha? That's kind of cool. Block, yeah, block fuse. That's what I did. I needed so many little pieces. I was like, oh, maybe I should block fuse this. I was so glad I did, because cutting little tiny pieces, not my strong suit. I bet you would have never guessed that. I'm using my fingers to sort of ease it on a little bit. Oh, I lost my back stitch at the shoulder there, so that's why that one's not lining up. Spreading apart. Eee, come on. Close enough. Look at, we're already getting our little lapel there. This isn't normally how you would sew this. I know, the bobbin, right? Can you believe it? So with the notched collars, of all the collars, I think the notched collar has one of the biggest array of design choices with the smallest amount of movement. Meaning, like, you can just move something an eighth of an inch on the collar and it'll change what decade that collar is from. You know what I mean? And while you can do other things to collars, like add a ruffle trim or maybe scallop the edge or whatever, it's kind of cool that with the notched collar, you can make a big impact with just a tiny little adjustment on the collar. It's really cool. There's specific names for some of them too. I don't know them all. Like, the only one that comes to mind is clover. And clover would be when this little collar point, this is the lapel right here, is rounded, and same with this edge is rounded. Kind of like two clovers doing that. Kind of cool. But some of the names are kind of funny. It would be kind of fun to find out. Ooh, I feel like I'm going to have some tucks because I'm not checking or pinning. And I didn't flip anything yet. It'd be fun to see the origins of why some of those are called that. All right, let me just do this a little bit. Let's hope the sewing fairy helped me out here. See all that pad stitching I just did? And, you know, steaming and pressing. Oh, I went right through my seam there. Saw it coming. That's right where the collar ends, so. All right, moment of truth. Let's see. Peaked collar. This one, I put a kind of a prominent point on the lapel on this one, just to really like drive home. But it's kind of it would be kind of the standard starting point. The one thing I've learned with drafting these is that what you think on paper you're going to like, you generally probably won't. You're probably going to go back to the drawing board no matter what, because you end up just ooching things around a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. I always forget to click off the autofocus on this camera. You guys should shout at me when I do that. Let's just iron it to give it its best chance of hope here. So this is what, like the shawl collar, this one has the facing is the self fabric because it is exposed. So right here, you know, you can see when this folds back, the self is showing. So that would be that lapel. This is looking way better than I thought it would. Quilt and cotton. All right, let's do this. Get this good press here. That's where cut my seam there. Kind of tugging it really good. Sort of help. Sorry I didn't get this done, you guys. I let Michael know, I'm like, I'm gonna work late. He's like, okay. And usually I tell him that. He just eats without me. And when I got home at like 7:30. I usually get home about 6:30. And he's ready for dinner. And he's made it. He's waiting to serve it. Last night he waited for me, but he made breakfast for dinner, which was kind of a fun treat to get. That's where I cut when I clipped my seam, but that'll be fine. All right, so let's check it out. All right, so we're going to, everyone look away if you don't want to get sick. Let's see. I think I want to do this and then this. Like this, sorry. Okay. It's always mind bending to do. One thing that triggers me is when the camera is not, like when it's like this. And it's one thing I can't correct. So I'll even like shore up my table. All right, so here's our little shawl collar. So very similar to a notched collar, but the notched collar isn't, besides the lapel, this is the only part that's built onto the actual garment, right? Whereas the shawl collar, it actually has the whole under collar built on, right? Because there's the shoulder seam and the neck seam. So on this little guy, oh, I forgot the side seam again. So you can kind of see, like before I turn down the collar, sometimes you see, if it didn't have a lapel, you'll see this look. They'll pull this all out kind of back here, and they'll give you that kind of popped collar look, right? All right, so let's see how my drafting went. When I'm drafting on this little dress form, I have to do everything half the amount. So sometimes I make errors and they're really funny because I'll do every measurement half the amount and then I'll forget to do like one. And then I'm like, what's happening here? That's really funny. I've done it so much now, I kind of know. I had one collar, I was like, why isn't this collar like laying right? I did not make this double-breasted, so I don't know why I'm doing that. All right, so after I show you this one, I'm going to show you some pattern pieces and the Pinterest page to kind of give you collars in the wild vibe. All right, so here we go. Here we have our notched collar, kind of at a default state. Oh my gosh, why is this so hard? It's really hard. Okay, a little bit of floating, but I didn't do any understitching. I wasn't careful when I was doing it. This probably wouldn't float like that bad, but you can see the collar was separate. You saw me sew it there, right? And then this is the lapel, and we cannot button this up. This is not convertible, right? So, and that meaning we can't put this together and button it up. It would be really weird and almost impossible to do, because remember the center front here, it's like probably like right here, and can you see this curved line there that's sticking out past our button extension? So it doesn't want to line up and lay flat and meet at the top like that. So it's not a convertible. It can only be worn like this. And there's a top button, right? And so there's a lot of discussion. It's really interesting. When I was doing the button SBS, I got kind of into button placement. And if you go onto suit making sites, there's so much discussion on the break point of where you want your suit. So like, you know, this is the roll line right here, and then this is your break point right here, where this fold, the outer edge here hits the center front. That's your break point. So some people like it really high up, right? Some people like it really low, you know, and so you have to know that, and because it's unalterable once it's been built onto the pattern. It's kind of like the shirts, button-up shirts. There's also a lot of discussion where to place your first button below the collar stand, so the very top button on the placket. Some people want it really high, and some people want it like 2.5 inches lower. And this is a very personal decision, and it also really speaks to the physical differences of people, because the same person measuring the same things, the collar may not, like when they have that top button unbuttoned and it kind of relaxes and opens up, it will look very different from one person to the next, even if it's in the same exact spot on each person. So that's why they'll kind of adjust that top button. So when you get into making button-up shirts, you'll probably start learning your own preference. I used to put mine really high up and I was like, why do I do this? Then I have to unbutton 2 buttons all the time. I never button the top 2, so I would just leave them both off. And I started just putting mine like 1.5 inches below the neckline, because that's where I like it. So, all right. Yeah, exactly. It is on the roll. Yeah, exactly. So it'll be like right here. And no one buttons it. All right. So let's talk about the pattern pieces. How are you guys doing? Let me show you my Pinterest page. I had a lot of fun with this. I could have spent so much time on it. And I feel like I'm understanding the allure of Pinterest. How's that? Is that, let me see. I'm looking for how far. Okay, so that's under my face cam. Okay, cool. Let me do this so I can look at you guys right here. And move this camera. We can actually maybe move this camera back to its spot even. That'll be a lot more comfortable. Sorry, just a minute. Let me do this adjustment so you don't have to watch it again. Nobody's gonna be thrown up in the back seat on my stream. All right, so move this over here and this here. How's that? All right, so yeah, Anna, I was kind of like, do you know, like, by clicking all these links, like adding these things to my Pinterest page, did I just like ruin myself on the internet? Like, am I gonna get marketed to? Okay, so here's just a little taste of built-on or inset collars. Can you see how these collars are integrated with the bodice? There's no neckline seam. This is an inset style here, inset styles here. Sorry, they're the same exact one. I had a little trouble finding more examples. But then like this right here is built on. So this one right here, I would almost call a revere, but it's not quite the same. This one here without the neck seam. So these are built on, a lot of turtlenecks. This one has the lines going up the neck. This one's lovely. I love that. I saw another white one. I guess I didn't get it pinned. So these are like, there's a huge world of these. All right, so collar and collar stand, so button-ups, right? But look at how some of these are kind of fun. Like, look at this one right here. That is a collar and a collar stand, you know? You get a different vibe. This one here is, look, this one I pinned because you see how the collar point is rounded, so it looks like a Peter Pan, but it's not. The Mellow Low by Deer and Doe is like that. This is very classic button-up, right? Obviously here we have a more fashion-oriented one with the asymmetry and the collar, total button-up. Same with this one. This one honestly looks wrongly sewn because you see the collar there. See how this is not sewn well at the top. It's not fitting her well either. They've totally pinned it in the back, I can tell. I can go on and on about that kind of stuff. See, it's a double button there, but the placket, see the collar always meets at the center of the placket. When you button up your shirt, the collar should meet it right down the center of your garment where your buttons and buttonholes are, usually, unless they do a style choice like that. Here's a very classic one, right? You can see there the collar ends right above the button line. Is that the exact same shirt? It is. Little corduroy version, right? It's a classic button-up. All right, so we know button-ups, but I just thought I'd share a little bit of like the possibilities. Are these boards public? How do I do that? I don't know how to do that. Tell me how do I do that, Anna? I don't think any of my boards are. Not sure. Yeah, I think I might add more to these. Okay, so remember how I showed you just the collar stand alone, the stand collar, the band collar, upright collars, things like that. This is this. So this isn't actually very well drafted right here because it's crumpling there, but you get the idea of it. The polka dots don't match. That's a little triggering. You can tell she's on a runway. Ruffle, I feel like this is what we would see. Is their name really Halatos? I don't know about that. This is a Dickie, by the way. Oh, I just saw someone post a tutorial on how to do a Dickie. So basically, if you run warm, you can just wear this under your sweater, and it looks like you have a nice button up underneath, but you don't have to wear that. Just like the new sewing. The new sewing pattern. The sewing patterns are private. You just have an invite link to them. But yeah, I could put it in the guild. And maybe in here, wait, in the description of the video, I can do that, right? I can give you a link in the chat in a second too. All right, so here, okay, it's hard to see, sorry. Can I look at this? Maybe not. This is a little band collar, very simple. The elastics, I think that this is to secure it so that it doesn't creep around, but I have no idea. I don't think I've ever worn one of those. You'd have to ask Howard. If you know, you know. I like this. This is a great side button. You know, the placket doesn't have to be in the center. It can be in the back, right? And it can be on the side. It can be at the shoulder. Look at this. This is smart. A nice wide band collar. That one, very straightforward collar. This one, the collar does not meet at the top of the neck. You see how it separates when it gets up there. The buttons are lower. This is a really interesting one. Peter Pan is Claudine in French, is it? Oh, it's a Claudine collar. Oh, I love that. Okay, so this one just has this little like pleat around it as just like an extra detail. It's almost like they made a collar and collar stand because look at, see how it has this curve and then comes down, right? But it doesn't look like you fold this down, and that is a pleat. It looks like a pleat right here. That's kind of a fun detail. So they probably did an all-in-one style collar and stand and added that pleat in there. There's another really tall collar, really dramatic. Is this interesting to you guys? Like I'm totally resorting to Pinterest to fulfill my collar options, is because I know everything I do on my channel is pretty vanilla. I know fashion exists, trust me. I'm just a very, I guess probably a preppy girl at heart, not realizing I am. Classic, right? With the pop over placket, right? All right, so let's see. Basic collar, all right? Now these are very much camp style or just simple convertible collar. They can be worn open or closed. Look at this one right here. I'm pretty sure is a camp collar. And by the way, if you get access to this Pinterest, if I figure that out and everything, do not go, like, look at this one says turtleneck sweater, but some of these are mislabeled. I saw a lot of these collars mislabeled in here. I put them in the right place. I promise you, I know collars, so I put them in the right place. So this was one I wanted to look at with you guys and see, but I'm pretty sure there's no seam there. Let's see. Oh, there is a seam there, but look. See how the button is here? I don't think there's any more buttons and buttonholes up here, so they just made this permanently open. So it could have been buttoned all the way up. I don't think so, though. This looks like a notched collar. So let's take this guy out because he's not in the right spot. So let's edit this and put this in notched collars. There we go. That might have been the one that when I was pinning it. I may have mispinned. I remember there was one, but I thought I fixed it. It helps me see what feels. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this one I even went on this website and zoomed in, and it does look like a basic collar on this thing, and she's got it popped in the back, meaning she has it pushed up. That's what popped means. And then obviously camp collar. This is a knit version, so polos are pretty much in the camp collar and basic collar group. It's just that they're usually made from knit and they're self-finished all the way around. So it's like it's an existing piece. And you can buy these, by the way. You buy them in different lengths to fit your neckline. So I could have pinned a ton of things in here. You know, I know a lot about the camp thing. I learned a lot last year. And we have a lot of resources in the guild about that. All right, so here's some shawl collars. So shawl collars can be on a blouse as well as jackets, so and robes and things. So you see them on heavier garments sometimes. There's a lot of really good. And this one's a shawl collar in an inset. So you make the collar and then you set it into the garment. It looks like, I can't tell. Maybe this is just I don't know. This is the facing right there. It gets hidden. A lot of photos on Pinterest for shawl collars. Notched collars. So remember, this is when you can't button it all the way up. Carolyn pajamas, good. This isn't Carolyn pajamas, but Carolyn pajamas or a notched collar. Oh, I'm wearing my Rita shirt dress today to show you a notched collar. In fact, this is a really good example. I wanted to ask you guys, can I wear this jacket over this dress? Is this weird? I meant to ask you guys this at the beginning. Okay, so my jacket here, this is a basic collar, right? I can zip it up and I can wear it open, right? It's fine. It doesn't really, it kind of acts more like a Peter Pan. But see how my Rita shirt dress, it buttons to here. I cannot button this up. Look, it just is impossible to do. Right? So it's not convertible. This one is, right? So that's the difference. I really want to make this dress again someday. There we go. You did? Oh, that's nice, Terry. Okay. Thanks, Monica. I felt like Monica would say something for sure. I wasn't sure. I was like, this is the right proportion because the waist is so high on the Rita, but I've never worn them together. See how the points are softened on this one? This one, they're crisper. This little quilty coat. Really deep notch there. That deeper notch would make it easier to sew. This one here, oh, this one is without the collar portion sewn in. So that is a revere. I see the revere kind of mislabeled a lot in home sewing patterns. A revere is a notched collar without the collar sewn in. And then so you only get the notch of the lapel. You only get the lapel of the notched collar. Thank you. All right, so let's see. Do I have any more boards here? Oh, here, Peter Pan and flat collars. So I actually pinned a lot here because I feel like when you start seeing like this is a Peter Pan right here, you wouldn't know that, right? And this can be like, because they just want that vibe, right? It's a deep collar, it lays flat. You know, maybe they didn't know how to draft the other kind. You just never really know. Here, right here is okay, so this one could have been a basic collar, but the way it's laying here, I wanted to see this one. Y'all shopping my Pinterest page. See you. Can I look? Is there no other views on this website? Like, is this how this is? See full details? It runs slightly small. I'm trying to see where the neck seam is. This could just be a basic collar. I could be wrong. I may have put this in the wrong spot. Johnny style though. We're liking the Johnny. So let's move this over to basic. I was doing half of this on my iPad and half of it on my phone last night. That's why I couldn't tell. Okay, like, look at that. Like, you know, that's a Peter Pan collar. You got the kind of faux Battenberg lace with the black and white sort of detailing. This lace collar, that's extra, by the way. Do you see that it's not on the garment? You just buy the collar. Look at this one. I mean, that's a fall trend. I don't know about that. So yeah, and then the sailor collar. So here's that bow. See, there's the bow I was talking about, the double stripe. I actually worked somewhere where we did a sailor collar, and it looked like this one here. This is a sailor collar dickie. Oh, and they built the tie. They did a very budget thing. See, there's a seam right here. They built the tie integrated in the collar. This isn't a sailor collar. Oh, is it a sailor collar? Oh, this looks really badly made, but you get the idea. Like it looks like they literally did this. I can't tell. Anyway, it's just, yeah, cheap. This one, this right here is knitted trim, and they mitered it to do this effect here. So you can kind of see, like, Peter Pan has a really big footprint on fashion, and it's not going, oh, look at that right there. What would we consider this? I think that this, it's not a shawl collar. That's interesting. That's like the sailor collar right there, like a Peter Pan style. I love identifying collars. Okay, so Barbara asked earlier, you know, would the Peter Pan only be on a scoop neck? And usually you see it on scoop necks, but you see how this one's on a V-neck right here, and it has the pointed tips, so you can do that too. All right, so maybe I'll try and add more collars to this, but that's kind of a good summary. Did I have a notched collar thing? Did I show you that? I did, yeah. Okay. Oh, look at, I didn't classify this one. Look at this. This is really cool. This is a Peter Pan collar that's overlapped. I love this. And I think they styled it really well with the gray linen. The sleeves on the bias, I think, too. The whole top might be on the bias. That's cute. I've had this happen when I was a new sewer and I couldn't get my collars to me, and I would overlap them. Yeah, the patina blouse, Peter Pan. This is really cute. So let's put this in the Peter Pan. I can fly, I can fly, I can fly. All right, here's another one. Oh yeah, so this is a basic collar, but they added a, see how it's separate in the back and in the front? Whereas the one I showed you, the center back was on the fold. So it looks like how I presented the Peter Pan collar, but it's not, because I can tell because of the roll. And you could wear it unbuttoned, it would be fine, you know. There's no buttons though, but I'm just saying that's my test. Okay, so let's talk about some pattern stuff. How are we doing? You guys have any questions or requests or anything? Oh, I undid my camera here. Let me pull out the chat real quick. I just need to deactivate this camera really quick and then activate it again. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. We're going to go right over here. We're not doing the sewing machine. Love this. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay. Yeah, I love that little Peter Pan thing. I may have to do that. I feel like I finally am clicking. Like that last night was so fun to do. I'm going to do that more often. Thanks so much. You know, shout out to Anna, because Anna really helped me see the light with Pinterest because of Pattern Chatter. So it was kind of good. All right, so I have all my little pattern pieces. I didn't keep my stuffs and things separate. All right. It's just, I drafted them all. I'm just going to organize them a little bit here so that they are kind of together by style. Wait, I thought that was, oh yeah, we can keep those together. You with that, you with this. And then we'll do these on top of here. Upright collars. All right. I wonder if I need regular paper. I may need a little, just a little, yeah, I'm going to show you some collar pieces just so you kind of get an idea of what the collar pieces look like, what you're looking for to make it classified as that kind of collar. Let's get a bunch of scraps here. We want a sharp Sharpie. And then I want a little rotary. I'm coming. And we want removable tape. We always want removable tape. And we'll turn the iron off. Okay. All right, so I'm doing my kind of budget Fitopedia setup here. I love this stuff. Are you kidding? I'll show you for sure. All right. So where's my bodice as well? All right, so here's my little bodice. So this is the convertible collar. I'll just show you the top collar. So you see how this one is a straight line. There's a little bit of a lift here. So if I set this on the line, you can see it goes up right there. That's kind of what gives it the roll it needs. And it's obviously not built on the neckline shape, right? You just need your front and your back measurement in order to make a change. Now, when you wear this collar, you're actually wearing it like this. So this is how it goes on the body, like this. Right, so there is the center back right here, and the center front, it would roll around like this, right? So there's my collar. And this kind of takes us back to this image that I wish I could have on the screen simultaneously. Can I? Do I have an image thing here? I don't have an image thing here, but I'll just switch to this really quick. So this right here, right? So you know how this right here, the blue line, center back neck, the pink line is the center front. So this is our pink line, right? That's our center front. And so when we talk about style lines, I actually drew my green line. It's funny, I drafted it this way. It would be like this, right? So this right here is where we can change what style we want. If we wanted a, you know, more of a 70s point, we're going to kind of go out more, right? And bring this up and give ourselves a more 70s style exaggerated point, right? That's very exaggerated, by the way, more like that brown blouse we saw. And you know, you can even round it, right? Give it kind of that Peter Pan softness without it, with it being a more functional collar. I feel like the basic collar functions and it's easier to get right in the drafting and the fitting than the Peter Pan. the Peter Pan, I just feel like that under collar is really crucial to a successful Peter Pan. So yeah. So all right, so let's talk about fit. I'm going to give you some just quick tips. This is what Fitopedia will be all about in some ways. All right, so here's our basic collar, right? Here's our little basic collar. So cute. Right? Just wants to boing open. All right, so now when we were talking about the floating thing, with the collar lifting up, that means that we need to decrease the perimeter circumference. We need to bring it in, kind of cinch it up, right? So when I showed you, when I pinched it, it hugged the collar closer to the garment, right? And the way we would do that is cutting that outer perimeter here. So this is how the collar is, right? Like that. Think of it that way. There's the front, the outer edge, neckline, roll line, center back, right? You cut up to your seam line. You may see it fine in the back and only needing it in the front. You can just open it in the front. So I'm showing you in two places. And then you cut up to that line. You need a hinge on your seam line. Do not think you are cleverer than patterns and going all the way like it'll be fine. No, you won't be able to sew your collar on. So just saying. All right, let me give you a little piece of colored paper behind it. So if you have that floaty thing, you want to cinch it up, so you want to overlap the pieces, right? If it's too tight, like you're having trouble getting the collar to kind of go beyond the neckline here. Like this one's kind of close, right? But this could be solved with opening it up a bit like this, right, on the perimeter edge, and lengthening it, like lengthening it like 1 inch in this case. So I would lengthen it 1 inch here, like this way, because this is my center back. And then I would splay it out, probably back here a little bit, symmetrically on both sides, by the way. But like that, just give yourself a little bit so it can relax. A little bit makes a big impact in a collar, because when you think about the percentage of the amount you're adding in relation to the piece, it will make more sense why 1/8 of an inch would make a huge difference. And if you are doing this on a muslin and you're trying to figure out, well, how much should I open it up? Cut. Just go snip, snip, pull it down, let it relax, open, and see how much exactly and where it wants it. How is the state of the collar sewn? Is there a facing? Yes. I'm about to show those too. So, all right. So now if you had, like, say you made a fitting change that affected the length of your neck, like now your neck is shorter or longer than it was before, you simply just need to make the change right where that happened on a collar. Let's tape these together so they don't bug us. So here is our neck, right? And so from the center back to this notch, that's the distance of your neckline in the back. From the shoulder to here, right here on the seam line, that's the distance of your collar just on the front. So if you need to make this, just this section longer here, you left the back alone, but you made some changes to the front, say you just want to do that, it's as simple as slicing all the way through like that and spreading it apart equally, okay? Because remember, we've lengthened the neckline. The whole collar needs to follow that length adjustment. Now, if you had the floating issue or the too tight issue, that's different, that you need to solve that separately. So I would figure out the length issue, fix that, then I would fix that floating issue if you see it still. And then if it's too, like you made your neckline smaller, you overlap it. And the reason I do it in front of the notch, because you can do it at the notch, is it's easier to keep track of it. You can very literally see, oh, I've overlapped that 3/8 of an inch. I needed 3/8 of an inch less. And remember, you're working on a half collar, half of a bodice. So the whole front of the neck, but only between, it's not the whole front, it's half the front of the neck. So shoulder to front, back to neck, to shoulder there. All right, so those length adjustments are very easy to do. Let's say you took your neckline was like this, and you went like this. You changed the curve of your neckline. That's okay. Because we're talking about a collar that's not based on the silhouette of your neckline, we're only talking about a length measurement here. So you just do that length adjustment that I just showed you. That's it. All right, so that's kind of the basics of adjusting your collars. You can do that on pretty much every single collar. It's the same exact thing on all of them. Just you need to locate your neckline, your center back, your center front, and your shoulder. And the shoulder is often the one thing that's not marked consistently on patterns. Say you're doing a raglan, right? And you have 2 notches. Well, you'll know sometimes that the raglan will have a notch in the middle of it as the sleeve meets the neckline, and that's your shoulder. It may not be your shoulder seam, but it's the shoulder location, and that's enough. So you just need to kind of keep your head on straight when you're kind of looking at it, and look at it very literally. Kind of connect the dots, front to front, back to back, shoulder to shoulder, and sort of locate it. And if you have trouble, like, gosh, I'm so confused, I don't understand how this could be my collar, pretend like you're sewing it in, you know, get out your little bodice and go, okay, this is my back. All right, I've sewn it in, but wait, how's that working? Okay, that's not really working. Okay, well, it would actually fold down if I put my neckline like this and fold it. Okay, now we're talking. So just play around with it. All right, so that kind of goes with your collar. All those changes go with your collar stand if you were doing a button-up collar as well. Right? So same thing. Think about your, last thing about the basic collar, well, it's probably not the last thing because I like this collar a lot. You have an under collar and you have a top collar. For this, it needs a facing in the front, and the facing in the back neck is optional. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all you need to know about that. Okay. That's just some of your logistics stuff. All right. So this is your button-up collar. Let's compare it to this guy. This is the same kind of thing. So let's overlap this as if it's sewn. It's the same kind of thing, right? You have your roll line, which is right here on the seam line. It's just more collar. It sits higher up. You have this band around your neck, then you have the collar. The collar has to be long enough to cover the band. That's why it's taller overall. My vocal cords get so tired, it's crazy. All right, so yeah, so it's the same kind of changes. If you want to do any of the changes I was talking about, you're going to do the same thing. Now, when you're talking about the floating thing, you're only going to do that to the collar pieces, not the stand, because you're only affecting the perimeter up to the seam line. The seam line won't change when it gets sewn to the stand, so you're okay there. But then if you want a length adjustment for your neck, you want to go through both. So you want to go through both collar and stand for the back or the front. If you're doing the back, the cheaty way to do it is just to go parallel, make a parallel line to your center back right here, sorry. Like this. You don't have to slice up and then put that on the fold. Just remember, it's half the amount if you're working on half the pattern. Don't forget that part. And then for these pattern pieces, you need a top collar and an under collar, and you need 2 collar stands that are the same. There's no difference between them. You interface one of each, top collar and then the outer collar stand. So that's the pattern pieces you need. You don't need a facing for these because when you look at this here, when you look at the collar stand, there's not usually a notch right here at the front, but let's pretend we marked the center front on the collar stand. This is why we don't need a facing to finish this style, because we've extended the collar stand all the way to the edge to enclose that little bit between our center front and the edge of the extension. So it's why it encapsulates the entire neckline. You don't need a facing. You guys have any questions or anything? Stand was the same thing. Here's my little stand that I showed you. It could be rounded, it could be straight, right? Same changes. So here is my Peter Pan. I have two. Oh yeah, here it is right here. Okay. And my sailor. So remember when I was telling you, hi Ray, about how the Peter Pan can have a roll? So, and that was when you overlap your shoulder tips. So this pattern, I'm gonna get more water. I may have to chew some gum. Would you guys mind that if I chewed gum? It'll help. When I tell you that you guys are literally practically the only people in the world I talk to, you can tell I don't talk very much. The centerpiece. When we were talking about how you sew your collar stand, Ray, that shirt collar and collar stand, and yes, in the center back, yeah. You mean the center back? Yes. I can help you a little more with that, Ray, next time I see you in a workshop or social thing. Okay. I'll try not to chew too much. All right. So first off, when we develop the Peter Pan, we do use the neckline of the pieces. It's impossible to draft without. Whereas like the others, we just use a measurement, right? You could literally phone up your pattern drafter friend and say, hey, I need a basic collar. Back is 2 1/4, the front is 2 1/8. And they're like, on it, right? Because that happens, right? With the Peter Pan, you'd need the pattern pieces. So here's my front and here's my back. I'm going to overlap them at the shoulder seam right here, right? Now, you overlap this outer point here a little more. So I'm going to pull it just down a little so that those shoulders are overlapped just a little bit more. And that's just going to help that floaty thing a little bit. It's not really giving you roll, the piece at the center front and the closing space. I'm actually not, I'm sorry, Ray. I'm kind of trying to figure out where we're talking about. I'll come back to that in just a second when I finish this right here, okay? I'll pull that piece out and we'll talk about it. Make sure I'm helping you. All right, and so now here's my little Peter Pan collar. So this one right here was drafted with just a little bit of overlap. So if I line up my center back neck right here, right? There's my center back. It's on the fold. And then here's my center front, this notch right here. That lines up pretty good. I just don't have the overlap quite right because it keeps wiggling around. Something like that. Oh, and I also, I think I did a bigger neckline. I can't remember what I did there. It's something like that. But there you go. It's the contour of the neck, right? That's the difference. And then this green right here, that's the potential, yeah, the timeline's working, exactly right. This green right here is your potential for style changes, right? So on this one here, I made it pointed, right? And then that one's rounded. And then, you know, this one, let's say the center front was on the fold and the back had a neck opening. You could have this little opening, you know, like the end of the collar here, and you can have an end of the collar back there, just like I did on that sample. So how this one has both, right? Or it's on the fold, right, all the way around. You have two separate ones. It's kind of unique that way. You can kind of do that with a basic collar too, but you just wouldn't usually. So, but we did see one pattern like that that did that. All right, and so if you wanted more roll, so more neck height of collar, you're going to overlap your shoulders a lot more. So you can see my two shoulders here are really overlapped. So I still sync them up at the neck right here, and then we're going to overlap them a lot more. And then you have to sort of contend with whatever situation you get here. Sometimes it'll create a little bump there. It looks like these are just the little seam allowance tags. That's fine. We're not at the bump stage yet, but they will overlap the shoulder points up to 4 inches sometimes, which is quite a bit. But you'd have a really high roll. Your depth of your Peter Pan can also change. You can make this really wide. You can make it really short. Whereas the basic collar, you have a limitation there. You can make it really long, but then it's going to start crashing. Like when it hits your garment, it's going to do a little like whoop, and it's going to sit. Whereas the Peter Pan, it's the same silhouette as your bodice, so it can handle that a little better. So, hello, Gerardo, welcome. So, all right, so then when we develop the sailor, we're pretty much doing the exact same thing. Right? So the sailor is one of the collars that alters the bodice in order to have it. Up until this point, we haven't had to alter any of our garments in order to make our collar. But because the sailor usually has this deep V, we did have to change our center front. And it's the same kind of thing. You're going to overlap your shoulder seam, and then you're going to do a little bit of overlap back there. You can do a lot for more roll, or just a flatter sailor, you would do a very little. And then here is my collar piece here. And it usually skims the width of the back shoulders. So, but you've obviously probably seen really exaggerated ones that will stick out past the shoulders, you know. You've seen them really short, really long, scalloped. There's all kinds of crazy things you can kind of do with these. So when I'm talking about overlapping the shoulders, right, I'm glad you said that because I said it once, but let's be clear. So when I make this, here's my shoulder seam right here. Here's my shoulder seam. First, I overlap on the shoulder seam. So now we have a sewn bodice. Then when I draft my Peter Pan or sailor, my starting point, I'm going to keep it right here on the neckline on the seam. I'm going to keep these two right there stacked. But then I'm going to tilt the shoulders to overlap at least a 1/2 inch. And in this one, I'm on a half scale. I'm just going to do it a 1/4 inch. That is the minimum amount over here. You overlap it because this is kind of cinching the collar. You know how I was talking about the floating thing with the collar? This is kind of preempting a little bit of that floatiness because the collar is thick and it's sitting on top of the garment. Plus, it has this seam that that's kind of forcing it to stick up above the garment a little bit. So we need to sort of combat some of that floatiness by just taking in the shoulder a little bit. We're not taking in the shoulder of the garment, only as a silhouette to build the pattern piece. And then when you want more roll, like you want more height in the back neck of the collar, you're going to overlap this even more. And you can go up to a lot, but it gets kind of funky to draft. You have to check it out. Okay. Yep, it's just for drafting the collar. No, I'm glad you asked that. That was good. So yeah, here's my little sailor collar. Right, and so here's how it looks. So cute when it's small. All right, so here we go. So again, that is one, and you need a facing for this. This is one you most likely are not going to finish any other way without a facing. It's just too fiddly. I'm looking for mine. Oh, here it is. It's all green. Okay. So this one has a little facing in there. See it? And it just gets sandwiched in the seam. It's very easy to sew. Very easy to sew. You got it, Lean? Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, the floating is just when the collar's like whoop. And you don't want that, right? You don't want it sticking up. You kind of want it to hug. So yeah, I don't think I was really clear about saying when I'm overlapping the shoulder of the bodice, I'm only doing that to build the collar. I'm not changing the bodice. I'm only changing the bodice for the sailor at the center front when we need that center front V. And like I said, some of them have an inset there. Some of them are on the fold. The one I made was a button front without an inset. I've even seen some with an inset that you button on the inside. So you could get it on and off still. It's kind of weird. So yeah, so this is the sailor, clean finished with the facing. Could line it too. All right, so where does that bring us? All right, to our notched and shawl collars. I think the, oh wait, no, I didn't do the stands. Let me do the stands first. So, all right, so we have our hood and we have our turtleneck and our cowl. So here's one cowl example. If you were to build the cowl as a separate pattern piece and it wasn't integrated with the garment, because a lot of times, can I think of, let's see, can I, if you were to normally build a cowl, I'm kind of, wait, it's like this. This would be the pattern piece, something like that. So this is your armhole right here, your side seam, your shoulder, and then this huge thing. And when you sew your garment together, and the back has something that integrates with this as well, then you create this cowl, right? This big drapey thing that's just built on the front of your garment. So that's normally how a cowl is the most successful to build. There are a lot of ways to draft a cowl. And, you know, like what if you had like a deep, you know, deep neck, you know, right? What if you had a high cowl, you know, you can do it. Oh, sorry, my paper keeps lifting up. I brought my iPad, but I think the iPad screen doesn't show up. So, you know, like you could do a really deep cowl or a high cowl. There's a lot of different things you can do. Sometimes the cowl is super full. Sometimes it's really gentle. Sometimes you'll barely even detect it, you know, like you'll see the person and it's just kind of like a hint of the cowl, you know, just like a little bit of like a billowiness right there. So their cowls are, I feel like they're very much one of those things that every designer eventually plays with because they're sort of kind of fun, and they're sort of tricky because you can get a completely different result than what you were setting out for sometimes if you just, I don't know, just don't have like a realistic view of what you're looking for. So it's kind of fun that way. So anyway, this cowl pattern that I showed you would be more like if you were to take a turtleneck and make the turtleneck more billowy, so then it would have a neck seam. And you would do this with knits, right? Or something like that. It wouldn't need a facing because knits don't typically have facings. They just are, you know, sewn together. And often the cowl The seam will be on the right side of the garment, hidden under the cowl when it's sewn on like that. And so this right here, this is just my little turtleneck piece, right? Just a rectangle. So this one here, you don't need the neckline silhouette to make. You just need the measurement. You can call your drafter friend and say, yo, I need a turtleneck stat, right? And you can just give them the back and front necks. Whereas a cowl, you absolutely need the bodice if you're going to draft the cowl as an integrated piece onto it. So, hey, Julie. You know, and turtlenecks can be rolled up. They can't, this one right here I drafted was basic, right? It folds like this. And then you can fold it down again when you're wearing it, right? So this one, I feel like when I'm talking about these, it gets a little confusing because when I'm talking about the fold, I'm usually talking about the fold when you're wearing it. Whereas this one has a fold here to finish the edge. So, like this cowl here, you would need 2 of these to actually cut and sew it. And you would sew these outer edges together and then in this center back seam. And then you can still fold it over, but it has a seam along the edge. So, all right, so let's talk about the hood. When I tell you guys that I've worked somewhere where I spent 9 months or 9 months, no, like a month drafting a hood, I'm not lying, I did. That doesn't sound like a long time to you, but that is a long time when you are doing something. All right, Leanne, thanks for coming. When you're working somewhere as a drafter, I worked one place where I was doing 350 patterns every 4 months or so. And then I worked another place where I was doing 9 patterns every 9 months. So it's a very big difference in the type of pattern that you're drafting. And when I did this hood, I spent a whole month engineering the hood. It needed to fit the person. When they turned their head, the hood would follow them. It needed to be adjustable both in circumference this way around the back of the head and in the length and the depth of the head this way. It needed to have, it needed to be waterproof, so it had to go through testing. And it needed reflective tape as well. So a lot of those things, hi Kim, are kind of the, you know, you're dealing with a lot of moving parts there. Plus I needed to sew to the jacket and be affordable to make, right? So this is the basicest of basic hoods, right? So here, again, when you sewed a zip up in the hood, it was so interesting. Helpful. Oh yeah, cool. I only did it like once, right? I feel like I've done a bunch of these off camera, just coincidentally because they end up being gifts, so I don't do a lot of the gifts on stream. So for the hood, I started to put this in the upright collar thing. Now, I've seen hoods drafted a few different ways. I've seen them using the neckline to build the silhouette at the bottom. Where's my other, did we lose our other bodice? Is it just under here? Where's our other little bodice? Oh, well, I don't see it. What the heck? Okay, well, they'll do something funny where I don't find success with this method, so I don't do it. I don't have a big enough piece of paper, so we'll just do it on here. But what they'll do is they'll take the back neck and they'll go like this. It's kind of crazy. They'll trace off the back neck. Here's the shoulder seam. Here's the center back, right? Then they take the front and they go like this. They flip it, whoops, they flip it like this and then continue, all right? This is the neck seam and then you build the hood up from there. So this is the center front of the hood. Here's your shoulder seam and then the hood goes like, you know, which is why I started at the top of the paper. Goes like this. Isn't that crazy? So, hi Elizabeth, how's it going? Oh, okay, never mind. So that's another way to do it. I find with this, it is okay to do this, But honestly, it's one of those things where it's not that necessary to do all that engineering. It's one of the rare things where a lot of us are like, eh. That and the shoulders, where I really wish I could find my back bodice here. I have too much hair today because of the rain. Where? Oh, well. Is it over there? No. Well, that's just beside the point. I won't do an Aunt Tessie story. So, all right, so here's our hood. Let's talk about if we want to change it. So let's say that your hood here's your smiling face. Okay. Let's say you want to decrease your hood height, right? Look at that. Your head ends here, right? Look at those bangs you got. You're so cute. We'll put a bow in your hair. All right, so there you are. Oh, the way that I was just showing you, no, it doesn't account for that. I honestly, like, you can try that. You can try and see what I don't think you're going to get a negative result with doing it that way. It's just something that, it just doesn't really, you don't really need to do all that when we've established that drafting a collar works just fine. So that's how I do it. I draft my neckline of my hood kind of the reverse of my collar. So let me show you, I'll lay it on there and show you the difference. So see how with my collar here, here's my center back. Here's my shoulder line. You know, my hood was kind of hard to fit in there. Now I know why. They should match each other. You see how on the collar it goes up, but the hood goes down? That's all I do. I just lower the front. Whereas that other way to do it really lowers the front. And I think, like, I don't know. I just think like it's just a little unnecessary because usually, and maybe it's because of the way I draft. So see how I tip this down like this? That's sort of compensating for that. If that makes sense. Because my neckline is higher up, right? So if we compare my shoulder to front to this, obviously I don't have much depth and I'm not making it all the way down to there. But the thing is, when you think about how you are in relation to where this is on your body, our necks are forward. This is probably why I don't find that way works. Our necks are a little forward for the most part, and our heads are a little more forward on our body. And when you give all this extra depth, it's sort of unnecessary because then it's going to create a lot of extra height in the hood. And maybe this is why a lot of patterns are a little tall. They are drafting it this way. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I never do this way. I always do it kind of like a collar, but I drop it down instead of raising it up to kind of give you that little silhouette. So that's my thing. I don't deviate from a lot of drafting traditions, but some of them I do. And that's one. I don't even realize I do it, honestly. I was just trained how to make a hood, and then I just kind of developed my own starting point, probably based on whatever block I was employed to use at the time. So, all right, so let's talk about you and your huge baggy hood sitting above your head there. So the fix for that is simply lengthening and shortening it just like you would pants, straight across. Here's the crown of your head. Here's your cute little face, right? Just poking out right here. Here's your neck, and you just need it shorter, right? Just like that. Let's say that it's super baggy in the back. Your neck feels like it's fine. Like, it doesn't feel like the neck is too far away from where your neck is. Then you can shorten it. Don't do that. Just shorten it by shaving it off, coming in literally like that, right? That's one way to do that. Most likely you're finding the hood too big front to back. Like, think of it this way. This is our hood, half of our hood, right? So there's the center back seam. right there. And here's your smiling little face. There's half of your face and your bangs, right? And here's your center front. If you're finding that there's just too much hood from front to back, and it may be that your neck is too far away from the body, right? Most people do. I don't know what it is about hoods. It is the one thing I feel like they're like, let's just make it as big as possible. And everybody's sitting there like, you know, trying to look for the car as they're crossing the street, and they're looking at the inside of their hood when they turn their head. Nobody likes that, right? So getting that kind of depth and height, you know, dialed in is really key. So some hoods also have a neck guard, right? Like this. I don't know why I just put 4 holes there. It's not waterproof anymore. So you can keep your neck, you know, protected and kind of cinch it up, make you warmer. Because this hood right here, this is like a fleece hoodie that you wear all the time, like a zip hoodie, right? It's just simple like that. And then when you want like a gnome style, right, you're going to make this much straighter, like this. If you want that kind of cape kind of thing. Someone was just talking about making a hood that you can unzip it here, and then it becomes a cape on your shoulders. Easy peasy. All you do is put a zip from, you know, the separating part goes here. Zoop. Making sure I think, but yeah. So, yeah. And then all those other adjustments we were talking about earlier, like say you made some fitting adjustments to your garment and you changed your neckline between shoulder and neck, exact same thing. You can slice all the way through or up to the seam. So you can choose, like if you want to go all the way through and make the whole thing smaller, or maybe you're like, no, I like this. You can just slash and overlap, right? Or make it bigger if you needed more length here. Same with your back. The back, you can even just go out from the back, or you can slice up to there. The thing about a hood is that this seam sews to itself. So whatever you do to this is going to be fine. As long as you're matching your neckline to your garment, you're going to be just fine. You don't have to worry about going, oh, I'm going to do this to my hood. It'll still sew to itself because that's the seam, and good luck. So, yeah. All right. That's probably good enough for hoods, right? Very niche. All right, so let's get our notched. This is the shawl. Let's look at the shawl real quick. So here's my original pattern when I built it. So do you see how it's integrated into the bodice? So this is another one where you have to A, change your bodice in order to have this style, and B, use the bodice in order to create it. So you have to have it. And you have a lot of pieces involved. Well, actually, you don't have a lot of pieces involved. For this built-on style, I have my new front with the collar. Night, Mullen. See you later. My built-on collar there, and this is your under collar. So even though this is your outer garment here, this is your outer garment, this is your under collar because it folds back. Just like this, right, when you wear it. And then it goes around the back neck just like that. All right, we won't try and combat the tape. The gum has made such a big difference. Thank you, guys. All right, so something like that, right? And then, not you, not you, not you, not you. This one? Here's one. Not you. What do we do with the notched collar? Was it totally green? Is this it? Oh, it's sailor. Huh. I don't know where that, it's with my back bodice somewhere. All right, here's my little shawl collar. right? I think I made one of these once and I forgot to cut my facing out of the interior, the outer fabric. I figured it out quick, but it was a bummer. So here you can see that this, so you need your, oops, your front, right? That's this piece here. I have this one has the fake notch, so see there's my little fake. I keep saying fake notch like it's a bad thing, but it's just like a different look for the shawl collar. But that's it, it's built on, and this one doesn't have it. And here's the facing. So these are the two pieces you need in order to do this. A lot of times when you do this in a coat or something kind of heavy, there will be a dart right here, and that's on the roll line of the shawl. And this will cinch that fabric. So you know how I keep harping about having an undercollar that's smaller? This is what that does. It kind of creates an action to, if you put a little dart right here, right? See how it's pulling the collar? And then now when I fold it, it will hug the shirt a little better. So it's sort of taking the place of an undercollar. On something like a blouse, you know, you wouldn't do that. You would see that and it wouldn't, it's just not necessary. So you have best friend with the collar, oh yeah. Oh yeah, sometimes there's that as well, Terry. There's a few different ways to draft these. I can get my book out if you guys want to look at it. I'm sure they have all the, do they have that way in there? I wonder if they have that way in there. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they do, actually. I'm pretty sure they do. So, where's my, it's on the dress form. Here we go. All right, so that's the shawl collar. I also, I didn't even make my back. I did make the back a little different. There's one little subtle thing you do, and you kick up the shoulder seam a tiny bit at the neck, and then you bring down the front. It just kind of helps contour it a little bit. So, okay, my last one is my notched collar here. I wish the expert, well, we have Terry. I'm glad Shim didn't see my button-up shirt. Last thing I need is the pro going, Saremy, come on, you really phoned it in on that one. All right, so here we have our notched collar. Can't believe I did that right there. Oh, well. So where's my pattern pieces? Right here. So here is another one where the bodice has to change in order to have this collar, and you need the bodice in order to draft it. And so you can kind of see what you start with here. Here's my front, and then you build it onto the neck right here. In this case, though, this collar piece becomes a separate piece, but the lapel doesn't. And so do you see right here this line going from the neck down? That's that roll line, and here's the break point right here. And you kind of back off the original neckline away from the neck a little bit. So, and then you sort of do some mirroring, like you'll fold it, trace it, fold it, trace it, and do a couple things there to sort of establish this. It's one of those things where I always have a cheat sheet for these because it's like, oh, I do this and then I square up from here and I do about this much, and you start drafting the style lines, like the look of your collar, before you know you're doing it. So right here, this would be very traditional, right? You have the lapel a little bit sticking out from the collar point there, but not much. I trimmed mine down, so it would normally be like right here. And this little spacing here is about 3/4 of an inch. In a life size, this is half size, so this is 3/8 right there. And what else do? You kind of pull down the center back neck there. Yeah, I think that's it. And this ends up being right here, where your point where you sew the collar on. And so the pieces that you need for this one has a bunch. This one needs a facing in order to finish the neck. You can get away, I think, without, no, you have to have a facing. I'm thinking of something else right now. So you can see, like, let's look at our pieces here. So we have two separate pattern pieces for the collar. You need to have a top and an under. You have a lapel here, which is your inner facing, and this fabric will be the same as your outer, because this, again, your under lapel, but your outer garment here, because this roll line, everything past the roll line is the under lapel, right? And then you have a back neck facing. And in a lot of suit coats, this back neck facing will be different shapes and sizes, and usually a little deeper at the center back so that it has hanger appeal. So when it hangs on the hanger, you see the self right there, and you see the coat maker and whatever, right? It's just kind of like a marketing piece, right? So your style lines are this right here, right? You can change to the different points. You can change the distance here. You can pull them out. This is probably something I'm extremely unfamiliar with. I don't pay attention to trends with suits. But I'll bet if you subscribe to any of those like magazines that have a lot of suits in them, they talk about this every season. How are we wearing our collars and our points and things like that? So, and where is this break point? Is it higher? Is it lower? It's, you know, it's the shawl collar and this one and kind of the sailor all integrate with the depth of the center front opening here, which is really interesting. You know, the button front goes all the way up to the neck every time, and the camp, same thing, you know, those just go up to the neck, whereas the notched and the shawl, you know, you can kind of change this. You can make it really low, you can make it really high. It integrates with the bodice. So, and same thing when you want to make changes to this. I should have showed you this on the shawl too. You need to remember that you always, on all of these, if there's a facing, you need to remember you're changing your facing to match. But here's my little front jacket. So these are the pattern pieces that you need. You need your front facing, and your collar piece right here, right? All cut in self. And then there's a back neck facing and a back, of course, to make your jacket. Now, if we were like, okay, we made an adjustment here to our neckline, we'd need to change our facing to match that. And then we have this. This is our shoulder to our center front. That's this distance right here. That's how it goes. See, right there. And we can make that change just like we did on the other collar pieces, changing between shoulder and center front, just slicing, spreading, overlapping. If you need the to decrease the floating thing, same thing. This is your outer edge of your collar right here. So we could slice down into that in the neck and let it spread apart a little bit. Maybe it's floating and we want it to bring, wait, I just said that off the reverse, didn't I? If it's really tight back here, like you're having trouble folding it down and getting it to go around, you can slice into it up to the neck, let it spread apart. If it's floating up like this, right, like that, then you would cut into it and overlap it right here. So that's what this is, this pattern piece right here. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Terry. Like so much. And it's funny because my husband, he likes nice clothes, but he doesn't dress that way, but he appreciates it. And I remember one time, like he needed a shirt to go on a trip, and I was like, why don't you just wear that one? He's like, I can't wear that. That collar's really like, it's really dated. I couldn't tell. And I thought, wow, I'm the fashion major. I did not know that, but I don't keep up on men's fashion. So I keep up on whether they're allowed to wear sweatpants in public, and that's the only thing I weigh in on because I'm 100% against it. So Yeah, so this little lapel here. If you buy a pattern and you're like, I don't like how pointy this is, you know, you can start shaving it down, right? You can kind of, where's my other piece? I would rather play around with it. Right here's my lapel, right? Like I want this to be, oh. And look, this is the revere. This is it. That's all it is, right? And you can tell this one has this little dip here. You can change that, right? Cut off the lapel. There's your revere. You can make it straighter here. This is the revere. That's all it is a notched collar without the collar. That's it. They're really cool. That one we saw that was kind of built onto the pattern was pretty neat too. What was I telling you? Oh yeah, if you want to just change this collar point, right? Like you can kind of maybe do your sample and go, what do I want from this? And draw directly on there. Like, okay, I kind of want this to be, you know, less full right here, right? And you'll know directly where that corresponds to right here. And you can trim that off. Or bring it closer down or round it, right? You can do the clover collar, which is kind of cute. Sometimes the clover collar is cute. Sometimes I'm like, This right here is your collar point on the collar. This is your neckline, right? Anytime you see this notch right there, sorry, this is my drafted piece. That little notch at the neck there, that's your shoulder. It doesn't seem like that's your collar point, but it is. So it can go like this. It can come out. It can go in. It can be longer, so you can kind of shape this, right? Yeah, exactly. I did, Barbara. Yeah, on this jacket here, it was a much more prominent point, and I trimmed it down a little bit. All right, well, that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys. I'm obviously super excited about anytime I get to talk about pattern drafting. And now, you know, and also what I really wanted you to know was some of the names of these, so that when you're having trouble, you know, sewing a pattern, their tutorials just not doing it for you, and you're looking for more, make sure whatever they're calling their pattern is actually the pattern style, because you'll probably get a lot more help if you know the fundamental name of that pattern style. There's a lot of imaginary collars out there. Like sometimes I see them and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. They just kind of made that up, and that's kind of tough. And then you're kind of like beholden to whatever their tutorial is. But if you have a book like, where's my, this book here? Oh, this book's so good. Oh, here, I have my pattern drafting book out here. I had it out for a fitting question for somebody. This book is so good for sewing. You want the oldest one you can find, okay? Mine is a 1995, and it's pretty darn good. But I really think, like, if you knew the name of your collar, here we go, collars. It has attaching ruffle to, flat, interfacings, rolled, and then under rolled they have one piece, shawl, two piece, without back neck facing. So that means like when there's no back neck facing, you need to finish that under. Stand, adjusting the fit of, one piece shirt, two piece stay for shirt collar. So that's pretty cool. I think two piece collar, they is a notched, let's see, pretty sure. Yeah, a two piece, oh no. Oh, that's rolled. Rolled. Oh, yeah, okay. This used to be what they would say. They would say two-piece rolled collar. Two-piece just means there's a top collar and an under collar. But the directions are really great in here. Flat collar, so that, see how I called it a flat collar? That's Peter Pan. And there's the curve. Types of collars. So they don't have everything in here, but they might have, look at that, they even have a zippered neck pullover thing. I love this book. I got it from Thrift Books, used. I bought it last year. I wanted to look up if there's a notched collar in here. I'm not sure. Where I would find that. If it's suit jacket. Or maybe it's under tailoring. I'm looking to tell you if it's in here or not. Oh my gosh, the S section is big. What did I just say? Tailoring? Maybe not. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. I love this book though. It's really good. I hope I get an older one someday. Oh, look at that. There's even fitting. Let's pull up the collar section in here. People will say, oh, the designs are so dated in that pattern drafting book. Look, if you think the designs are dated in a pattern drafting book, you're missing the point of pattern drafting. That's the snarkiest I'll be today, but it's true, right? Let's see, collars, 253, but I know all the collars aren't in that section. Oh, here we go, here we go. Okay, so let's see, 253 and 485. 253. And by that I mean you can draft whatever you want. The world is your oyster. Oh, really, Barbara? Oh, I'm kind of jealous about that. Look at that. Look at these collars. The point of this is to show you, like a pattern drafting book, to show you all the possibilities. Oh, this is such a good illustration of the roll. Do you see it? Little tiny bit. Hillary was asking about that. Convertible collars, non-convertible, convertible. All right. Even the changes, okay. But let's look at the, what did I say, 485 for suit jackets? Yeah, this is it actually. Oh yeah, oh, here it is. Okay, look. Look at this. This is so cool. Look at these names. So this one here, rounded peak, ball notch, rounded ball notch, ball peak. It's B-A-L, by the way. Semi-notch, collar peak, semi-peak, fish mouth, clover, mall clover, peak. It's pretty neat. Yeah, I know, exactly, Michelle. You're shopping for that book right now? It doesn't matter. Yeah, fashion is cyclical. Yeah, see? Looks just like mine. Oh, and see, look at this. What is this showing? See how the lapel is changing depth here? Portraits, necklines and things. Oh, let's look at cowls. I'm sure cowls are in here. Oh, where are they at though? Necklines maybe? Okay, the biggest problem with this book is that there's no index. Oh, there is an index. Oh my gosh, it's the other one that doesn't have an index. I'm sorry. I always look at the table of contents because I always think it's this one. Let's see. Oh my gosh, they have so many cowls, but there's a lot of them for sleeves because that was a thing for a while. This book can be missing a few things, like maybe something that like, you know, I don't think, I'll take that back, maybe not. Oh yeah, here we go, here we go. Okay, yes. Oh, good, good, good. Okay, good. Look at this. There's so many photos. Oh, and then here's like inset collars. I love this. This one. That I love. So here's, look at the barely little cowl, right? This is linked on my tools page on my website if you don't want to remember right now. See, but look at the cowl sticks up above the neckline. It's built onto the garment. Look at that, see? I get so excited, don't I? So you can make them low. And then look at how hers is flat here and then cowled there. Back cowls. We just saw a dress on the Mood website. It'll probably be in Pattern Chatter this month. That has a, oh yeah, it's a back cowl. I know, they're a little blush. This is such a traditional fashion sketching style that I was taught in college and never learned. The underarm cowls. The flat with cowls, cool. Yeah, isn't that cool? Not everything in the world is that's possible is in here, but a lot of it. I think when you kind of work through doing some of these things, you start just realizing you can do whatever you want, right? As long as you're still able to sew it together. So yeah. They even have oh, they have a strapless shell. Wait a minute, what's happening here? Oh yeah, so it's this one right here is attached to a strapless fitted shell. They call bodices shells a lot. So anyway, it's a very expensive book, so I'm sorry to show it off to you guys, but it's also awesome. I love it. I still use it. I graduated college in 1991. All right. Aw. Oh, I love how I have all these little collar things now too. All right, well, yeah, it's like a modesty piece. Yeah, but it is attached to it. They kind of integrate it. Do you guys have any questions? I'm really glad you kind of indulged me on doing collar talk. The paperback version. I've heard that there are knockoff copies of this book and they're not good. So be careful. You don't want a photocopied version. Because I hear it's not very clear. Like it's blurry and stuff. You might be able to find it used though. I've never seen a new one to compare. Yeah, whereas mine is probably between 80 and 120 or something. You need timestamps. Do you want to do them, Christina? Anyone is welcome to volunteer to do timestamps. Oh, that's good, Aisha. Maybe you could share that under the post, the event description or something. You can, Christina? Oh, nice. Photocopy, oh, exactly. Yes, I think it's Rachel where I heard that. So, yeah, that's such a bummer that happens, but it does. There's another really good pattern drafting book that you'll see YouTubers reference and other people who went to design school. And I'm sure it's really good too. So you can always just, if you have that one, just stick with it. I'm sure it's fine. I've never seen it, but I know a lot of people use it. I can't think of the name of it. Jen Stern always refers to one too, but I'm not familiar with it as well. Is my machine off? Oh yeah, cool. I'm trying to make sure I told you everything I want to tell you about these because I just really wanted to give you guys a reference for these and how to change them and stuff. It was a fun exercise for me. All right, well, the next stream week is in a couple of weeks, starting on Wednesday, and I'm making the Donnie shirt by Friday Pattern Company, and Hearts Fabric sent us a copy of the pattern and some Brussels washer linen in a beautiful jam color. Oh yeah, wait. See the little, oh, there we go. Cop Designing Apparel. Yeah. Oh, I have that one. I have it. It's right here. It's so faded. This one. I have this one. It's good too. This one you're going to see a lot of baby Saremy writing in it. Oh, here's the collars. Wing collar. Oh, there's completely different ones in here. Not completely different. I love that it just opened right to the collar section. Detachable. Flat fitting. This is the one that doesn't have an index. Final, not notched collar. Look at, my writing is kind of similar still. I must have forgot paper that day. I don't use this book as much, and I honestly don't know why. Like, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with it. I do feel like some of the language in the other one is more consistently spoken of in the world of pattern drafting. So maybe that's it. Yeah, try thrift books for, yeah. Do I owe the sample patterns? I'll think about it. I was thinking about just doing like a little like a collar workshop, and I can show you guys how to draft them and you can have your own. Then it would fit you. Because mine are so hard to deal with because they're so tiny. They're half size. Oh, possible panini quality issue. Yeah. Oh, it's here. This one doesn't have the index too, so the table of contents is like this. And it's just, you have to know what they're thinking of. Like all the like waists, they put like things, like princess lines are considered a waist thing. So you have to like know how they're thinking. And I think I just got tired of that. I think I used this book a lot more at the beginning when I was learning. And then I moved to that book. I can't remember. But I loved drafting. Oh, this is interesting. They drafted their Peter Pan not using the bodice. Oh yeah, then they do. Oh yeah, Bertha collars. I forgot about that. They call them Bertha collars. Revere. See? Reveres. Sometimes in the back of that one, the other one, I think there's sewing instructions. I think there's going to be cons to either book for sure. Like, I don't do the hood thing in there, you know. I don't think it's a con to the book. This, like, this would not be considered a shawl collar. Interesting. Anyway, collar workshop sounds good. Cool. Nice. Yeah, that would be fun for me too. I would love that. Yeah, this kind of reinvigorated my idea of doing like a sloper workshop too. So I feel pretty comfortable drafting. I'm very comfortable drafting. Drafting and how to construction, those are my wheelhouse. Like how things go together, that's my thing. I don't think I'm as strong at fitting as other people. That's not what the emphasis was. I know how to do it, but I don't do it the same way. And someone recently kind of referred to it as like my casual way of fitting. Someone who is kind of a peer. And I was kind of like, was that a backhanded compliment? Because I'm not casual about fitting. I just don't do it the way home sewers do it. I doubt either of those is very size inclusive, but I do think that the beginning of this book here just talks about it at least. I don't know about the other one. I know this book a lot better. Where is it? I feel like it's here somewhere. Like, I like that they actually show, you know, there's different postures and things, and they will show you things, and they don't talk about it I don't remember this word for word, but I don't think they talk about it in a negative way. It's just like, this is the facts, right? Oh, does she, Aisha? That's good. So these are all just like, they call this fleshy. I don't really like that, but it's a kind of, you know, like, where are you, you know, where are you at and how you call things, you know. But I like that they're really trying to shine a light on the fact that people, like, look at all their chins are in the same spot, but their bust level, waist level, everything is in different spots. And I think that this is my experience with people. This one does tell you how to draft on your own measurements, though. Oh, I'm glad, Amy. Yeah, I know how to do it. As long as people listen to me. I'm just teasing. You're not one of those that didn't listen. Everything presenting in here is a very thin person, though. So there is that. This isn't like targeted at a curvy audience. And I think drafting is different for curvy people. They need more, they need different details. And so if you find a drafting book centered on curviness, I would probably use it in conjunction with this, because this isn't a book also focused on grading, which is the difference between sizes. And that's where the curvy market, it just gets failed on over and over again, right? Because people don't grade properly and they don't build a new block for the curvy size range. And I think that that's really important. This one's going to tell you how to do the drafting for no matter what size it is. It's not size specific, but it's not also going to tell you about how to change something that's already existing in front of you and grade it up to what you need, if that makes sense. When you get into the world of grading, it's a totally different thing, and neither of these books talks about that. So when the things I specialized in was grading and drafting, like the engineering part of it, especially technical stuff. Those are the things I liked. But if you were to hire me for like super flowy formal stuff, I'd be like, please no. Oh, any recommendations for, I don't know of a curvy drafting book, to be quite honest. Oh, that's right. Layla from Moon and Broad is working on one. That's going to be really cool. I want that. Can we pre-order that yet? So, yeah, anyway. Long stream. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for being interested in this. I love it. And I hope I see you for the Donnie. I'm doing a lot more drafting on my channel, and I'm hoping that's okay. It's free for me to do. So there's that. Except for spending a lot of time making lots of collars, but I'm keeping all those. They're all pretty good. That Peter Pan was kind of funky. Super Flying Nun-ish. I wish the Flying Nun had aired when I love the pictures from it. All right, I'm getting rambly. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Have a great weekend, and maybe I'll see you in a couple weeks for the Donnie. You can make your own pull over. I was going to say camp shirt, but it's not. It's a notched collar, but it looks like a camp shirt. It is a notched collar, though. So it's not technically a camp shirt, but it is a pullover. No buttons, no buttonholes. So that's pretty cool. No pre-orders yet, probably next year. Okay. I don't know of another drafting book for Kirby. It is fun. I love it. Yeah, you're welcome, Ken. I'm really glad that you are interested in it. Cool. Yeah, it was really fun for me. I love comparing it and giving context and seeing the interaction between the different points. It's so like, even I'm like, oh, I never thought about this. This is built off the bodice, and these are not built off the bodice. I just love stuff like that. Oh, good. I'm so glad, you guys. All right. Well, have a good weekend. Thanks for coming. And I'll see you guys in the guild. There's a all-day social time tomorrow that starts at 9 a.m. Eastern. I will be sleeping. But Monica is hosting, and Monica is the absolute nicest person ever. And she is making her DVF dress, her Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress. So there's a marathon all-day social time. I'm going to be dropping in there. So if you're in the guild, all are welcome. And then just look at the events section, and it's a Zoom there. And then this week there's 2 workshops for the guildies. And that's it, right? Yeah. And then the following week is stream. So I'll see you guys then. Bye, guys.